President Donald Trump has hit 100 days in office. In Kentucky, it's almost time for Derby Day. And a special guest is heading to NKU's campus. All this, along with entertainment, sports, and much more, is coming up right here on the Northerner World Report. Welcome to this week's World Report. I'm your host, Emily Sisk. Thank you for joining us. Tuesday marked the end of the first 100 days of President Donald Trump's second term. Starting with an eventful inauguration day, he's moved at a rapid pace to enact his agenda. From controversial cabinet picks to sweeping tariffs to the departure of tens of thousands of federal workers in an effort to reform the federal government. Our Washington correspondent Julia Benbrook details some of the most impactful moments of his first few months.
Just hours after President Donald Trump was sworn in,
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
He signed a flurry of executive orders. Some sought to undo portions of his predecessor's legacy, hitting on a wide range of issues like immigration and the economy. In these first few months, he's hosted close to a dozen foreign leaders, including Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. That visit, designed to discuss a possible end to the war with Russia, turned into an unprecedented back and forth.
You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. Right.
The new Department of Government Efficiency and tech billionaire Elon Musk are spearheading the administration's efforts to reform the federal government and, quote, get rid of waste.
Doge. Perhaps you've heard of it. Perhaps.
Resulting in the firings of tens of thousands of federal workers across various departments and the decision to dismantle the Department of Education. As promised on the campaign trail, Trump took a hardline stance on immigration, launching a series of deportation flights to El Salvador that prompted legal battles. When it comes to trade, Trump remains adamant that his tariff policies will benefit Americans.
With today's action, we are finally going to be able to make America great again, greater than ever before.
But the back and forth on tariffs alone has caused confusion. Reporting at the White House, I'm Julia Benbrook.
According to a new Ipsos poll, Trump has the lowest 100-day approval rating of any president in the last 80 years. 39% of respondents said they approve of how he is handling the job. And Trump said he is nominating Mike Waltz to serve as U.S. ambassador to the United Nations. That move shifts Waltz out of his role as national security advisor. The news comes after reporting that Waltz would soon depart the Trump administration. In a social media post on Thursday, the president said that Secretary of State Marco Rubio will now serve as interim national security advisor while continuing his State Department role. Waltz had been on shaky ground since he inadvertently added a reporter to a group chat about military strikes. And in D.C., one Republican senator said she wants to see more products made in the U.S. Senator Joni Ernst of Iowa spoke about the importance of aiding the economy through American-made products. Here's what she had to say.
Boosting American manufacturing strengthens the economy and our national security, which is something that's very important to all of us, by decreasing our reliance on foreign nations and our adversaries. So, you know what, folks? Let's make Made in America the norm instead of the exception.
Ernst serves as chair of the U.S. Senate Committee on Small Business and Entrepreneurship. She says she'll continue working on bipartisan legislation to strengthen American industries. A Palestinian student at Columbia University who was arrested at his U.S. citizenship interview is now free. He was released from custody on Wednesday after an order from a Vermont judge. Sherelle Hubbard has more on his ordeal, which lasted more than 2 weeks.
Keep in mind that, yes, you might think I am free, but my freedom is interlinked to the freedom of many other students.
Mohsen Madawi made clear Wednesday that he is not free until many other students detained by ICE are also free. Following 2 weeks of detention by federal agents, Madawi was released Wednesday morning by a Vermont judge. Last spring, Madawi garnered attention when he spoke out against the war in Gaza and organized anti-war protests at Columbia University. Following his naturalization interview on April 14th, ICE officials seized him. Madawi describes feeling like he was being kidnapped.
They had already my flight tickets printed. Oh, no. They took me to Burlington Airport, and we just missed the airplane.
Throughout Madawi's detention, supporters protested his arrest.
Free Mohsen now! Free Mohsen now!
No charges have been filed against him. The government and the court system have been in a legal tug of war about who has jurisdiction on the case, which also focuses on the Constitution and immigration rights. Madawi's lawyer says he was detained in retaliation for advocating for the human rights of Palestinians.
So basically, the threat is saying no to their policy, which is a policy that is pro-war and against peace, anti-peace. And we are saying we are pro-peace and anti-war.
I'm Sherelle Hubbard reporting.
Madawi, who has been a legal permanent resident in the U.S. for 10 years, was released with conditions. The judge issued an order barring the government from removing him from the state or country. And Madawi is allowed to meet with his legal team. He also will be allowed to stay in Vermont and can still attend classes at Columbia University in New York City. And now let's check in with Tori Houston to learn about what is coming up in entertainment. Tori?
Thanks, Emily. I'll give you the latest on the Cowboy Carter Tour, another look-alike contest, and more. It's all coming up when we return to the Northerner World Report. Welcome back to the Northerner World Report. I'm Tori Houston. This is the scene Monday night in Texas. Wait, that's not Texas. That's Inglewood, California. Sophie Stadium has been invaded by cowboy hats and boots for the kickoff of their Beyoncé Cowboy Carter Tour. Her fans have embraced her country album, even if the Nashville establishment didn't. But she laughed all the way to the Grammys, taking home Country Album of the Year back in February. And now, well, let's just say she's playing Sophie Stadium for 5 nights before moving on to Chicago. Once there, she'll play at Soldier Stadium for 3 nights. And it goes on as Queen Bee takes her act on the road through much of the summer. Are these Bad Bunny's long-lost twins? In Miami, Florida, on Sunday, contestants lined up to compete in a look-alike contest to determine who most resembles the Puerto Rican artist. But it wasn't enough to just look like the artist. Contestants also had to recite the rapper's lyrics in front of an enthusiastic crowd. The winner, a guy named Kevin Amaro, won top honors, with a 3-year-old boy named Marcelo coming in close second. And finally, an action sequel and Blast from the Past went up against the reigning box office champ this weekend. David Daniel has the earliest estimates for the top 5 films in theaters.
What happened to these people?
Until Dawn, based on the video game, started out in 5th place with $8 million. A Minecraft movie made $22.7 million for 4th place and a domestic total of $380 million. Ben Affleck and The Accountant 2 rang up $24.5 million for a 3rd place debut.
Very dangerous putting them together. I don't think the boy can handle it. I don't trust him.
The 20th anniversary re-release of Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith took in $25.2 million, landing in 2nd place.
You big and strong enough to push past us?
Well, that wouldn't be too polite now, would it, Miss Annie?
There's no stopping Sinners. The action horror thriller stayed on top in its sophomore weekend, scaring up $45 million, just a 6% drop from its impressive debut. In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
And that's a wrap on your entertainment break. Now let's take it over to Mary Rogers for the Metal Minute.
Thanks, Tori. Today we have news on the death of Possessed original guitarist, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame 2025 inductees, and an update on the drama in A Killer's Confession. Brian Montana, the original guitarist for the classic death metal band Possessed, was killed in a police shootout on April 28th. He was 60 years old and had been involved in an argument with his neighbors regarding tree branches and leaves falling into his yard. Police were called to the scene after Montana allegedly threatened his neighbor with a gun. When they arrived, officers reported that he was shooting at the neighbor's house, which led them to call for backup. Montana then opened fire on police and was ultimately shot fatally at the scene. What is going on with The Killer's Confession? Mere days after the departure of King & King from the Killer's Confession, a second member has quit the band mid-tour. Guitarist Max Carrillo posted to his Facebook, quote, quitting a Killer's Confession, not good human beings. No wonder the drummer and merch guy quit at the same show for being treated badly, end quote. This is a shocking revelation, as it was previously reported that King & King left during a tour bus mishap. Carrillo then reported that the band was planning to create a false story about him and had been discussing replacing both the drummer and bassist behind their back. King & King reported after the incident that leaving the band, quote, wasn't a decision he wanted to make, end quote. And finally, the 2025 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame class has been announced. The list includes 13 inductees, including Bad Company, Chubby Checker, Joe Cocker, Cyndi Lauper, Outkast, Soundgarden, and the White Stripes in the performer category. Salt and Pepper in Warren Zevon for the Musical Influence Award, Tom Bell, Nicky Hopkins, and Carol Kane for the Musical Excellence Award, and Lenny Waronker for the Ahmet Ertuğrul. And that's all we have for today. Emily, back to you.
Thank you, Mary. The Sistine Chapel is being prepared for the start of conclave next Wednesday, the Catholic process of choosing the next pope. Rafael Romo reports from Rome.
Preparations for the conclave are in full swing here at the Vatican as more than 180 cardinals from around the world continue to meet and get ready to choose a successor for Pope Francis. The Holy See has released pictures showing construction work in the Sistine Chapel, where, in keeping with tradition, the conclave will take place. The pictures show metal and wooden beams being assembled to build the structures needed to accommodate all the cardinals that are eligible to cast ballots. Altogether, the Roman Catholic Church currently has 252 cardinals. But according to church rules, only those younger than 80 are eligible to vote, which means 135 cardinals can participate in the conclave. Vatican spokesman Matteo Bruni confirmed earlier this week that 2 cardinal electors will not attend the conclave due to health reasons. And on Tuesday, Cardinal Giovanni Angelo Becciu, who was convicted of financial crimes by the Vatican, said he will no longer insist on participating in the conclave. The cardinals decided earlier this week the conclave will begin on Wednesday, May 7th. The Vatican has announced that day at 10 in the morning, local time, there will be a votive mass for the election of the Pope here at St. Peter's Basilica. After the mass, the conclave itself will officially begin at 4:30 in the afternoon with a prayer service in the Pauline Chapel attended by all the cardinal electors. Once the prayer service has concluded, the cardinals will enter in procession into the Sistine Chapel. The last 2 conclaves, held in 2005 to elect Pope Benedict XVI and in 2013 to elect Pope Francis, lasted 2 days. Since Pope Francis was laid to rest on Saturday, the Vatican has held daily morning masses, and the cardinals have met frequently to discuss church matters and get ready for the conclave. Reporting from Rome, I'm Rafael Romo.
And speaking of the church, a documentary is in the works featuring the late Pope Francis's last on-camera interview. Filmmaker Martin Scorsese is producing the work called Audacious, A New Story. The documentary is about a cinema program which makes short films that speak to Pope Francis's passion for community building. It's being co-produced by Aldea Scholas Films, which is part of the Pope's nonprofit organization. There is no release date scheduled yet for the film. Pope Francis died earlier this month at 88 years old. Nearly 3 million people visit the Mount Rushmore National Memorial in South Dakota each year, but officials are warning the park is heading into the summer with a smaller staff. They say it's a result of recent cuts by the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. Blake Trolley has more.
25% of jobs at the memorial are currently open because of DOGE-related measures, according to the Mount Rushmore Society. Diana Nielsen, CEO of the society, sat down with Coded Territory News to discuss her concerns about the recent measures. Nielsen describes parks as small cities that have needs including wastewater treatment, IT, electrical, and more.
Right now, is that kind of the case? There's very limited people to take care of all these things that you're talking about, this infrastructure?
It's thin. It's thin for sure.
Nielsen says the now smaller staff at Mount Rushmore will do everything it can to ensure minimal impacts on visitors' experiences.
Programming will still happen. It may not be the number of programs that there have been in the past, but it'll be pretty close.
Nielsen had voiced her concerns with Senator Mike Rounds at a tourism forum in Rapid City earlier this month. Later that same day, Coda Territory News caught up with the senator, who said Nielsen's comments at the forum were the first time he'd heard of the cuts.
And specifically, I just said, look, have you reached out to anybody on staff? And at that point, they had not. So I'm saying, well, this is the first I've heard about it, but please stay in touch with our office, get the specifics to us so that we can go back and follow up, because if we're really going to celebrate our nation's 250th celebration and do it at Mount Rushmore, we want to make darn sure it's being done correctly and that they're staffed up and ready to go.
A spokesperson for the Department of Interior sent a statement to Coda Territory News that read in part, "We are implementing necessary reforms to ensure fiscal responsibility, operational efficiency, and government accountability." The statement continued later, saying that the National Park Service will continue to provide critical services and deliver excellent customer service.
As of Wednesday evening, the Doge website stated its overall efforts have led to an estimated $160 billion in savings. Language learning platform Duolingo is replacing contract workers with artificial intelligence. In an email Duolingo shared on LinkedIn, it's part of the company's plan to become more AI-focused. That will include not using contractors to do, quote, work that AI can handle. Duolingo's CEO said moving quickly to become AI first, despite the technology not being 100% perfect, could lead to some occasional small hits on quality. But he said the company can't wait. He also acknowledged the move could lead to less work and opportunities, but insisted the company still cares deeply about its employees. He said it's not about replacing people with AI, but removing bottlenecks to do more with current employees. And it's time to hear about what's coming up in sports. To do that, we'll check in with Dimitri Fisick. Dimitri?
Coming up, Novak Djokovic drops out of a major tournament, the Falcons get fined over a draft day mishap, and the Commanders plan a comeback to DC. Stick around, sports headlines you don't want to miss. Welcome back to your Northerner Sports World Report. I'm Dimitri Fisick. Let's jump into some stories making headlines across the sports world, from local honors to national shakeups. We start in tennis, where a big name has withdrawn from a key tournament. Novak Djokovic has pulled out of the 2025 Italian Open, citing an ongoing injury. The world number one announced he's focusing on recovery ahead of the French Open later this month. Djokovic has won the Italian Open 6 times and was the favorite to contend again in Rome. His absence opens the doors for rising stars to make a statement on the clay. Now to the NFL, where a costly mistake has led to a significant fine for the Atlanta Falcons. The NFL has fined Atlanta Falcons $250,000 and defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich $100,000 after Ulbrich's son accessed the team-issued iPad and used it to get Colorado quarterback Shedeur Sanders' phone number during the NFL draft process. The league ruled the incident violated draft conduct policies and raised privacy concerns. The Falcons issued a statement calling it a mistake with no malicious intent, but accepted the penalties. And a big move in the nation's capital could change the game for Commanders fans. The Washington Commanders have struck a deal to build a new stadium in downtown D.C., returning to the city for the first time since leaving RFK Stadium in 1996. The agreement, pending city council approval, would place the stadium on the RFK site. The owners say the return to D.C. is about reviving tradition and connecting with the community. If approved, construction could begin in 2026 with a targeted opening between 2029 and 2030. Now turning to some local tennis, where NKU's Ashley Fisk has been named the 2025 Horizon League Women's Tennis Player of the Year. Ashley Fisk posted a 10-6 overall record, including a 5-1 mark in conference play this season, and helped lead NKU to the Horizon League semifinals. The Norse team finished the season with a solid 8-10 record, but Fisk's individual performance stood out as she earned the first Player of the Year honor for NKU since 2018. Fisk's leadership will be remembered as a signature part of the season, even as the Norse look ahead to next year. That's your Northerner Sports Break. We'll send you back to Emily with the rest of your Northerner World Report.
Thank you, Dimitri. And it's Derby Week in Louisville, Kentucky. Usually the Wednesday before the Kentucky Derby is called Champions Day, but this year it's called Wednesday, W-I-N-S, a day all about giving back to the community. Joyce O'Geary reports.
We try to serve more families and expand our reach and have a greater impact.
Tia Lynn Scott understands firsthand the burden of mounting medical bills.
Her daughter, Celia, was diagnosed with life-threatening internal bleeding. Determined to help other families facing similar challenges, she found it critically loved to support families navigating medical crises.
There's just no supports for families that have a medical diagnosis. Unless your child has spina bifida or Down syndrome, there's just really no supports in the Louisville area. So that's why we started, that's why we will continue to be here.
That's why the partnership between Churchill Downs and the Community Foundation of Louisville for Wednesday is so important. Churchill Downs pledged to donate $5 for every box seat sold Wednesday to benefit 50 local nonprofits.
Our nonprofits just truly represent kind of the best of humanity, right? The best of us. They are the ones in our community who are filling the gaps and helping folks access resources that they need.
And for organizations like Feet of Louisville, it's a chance to raise crucial funds for programs supporting families impacted by autism.
Right now, we are helping about 6,000 families a year. You know, the impact of autism, 1 in 31. Autism doesn't discriminate.
Wednesday is more than just a day at the races. It's a celebration of community, highlighting the essential work of nonprofits do every day.
The value of investing back in itself, but then also come together to celebrate these nonprofits.
As part of the event, 20 of the nonprofits were randomly selected and paired with Derby contenders. They can get up to $20,000 if they win. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear is paying a visit to Northern Kentucky University this week. According to the university, Beshear will serve as commencement speaker for the Chase College of Law graduation ceremony on Friday. He will also be honored with an honorary Doctor of Laws degree. Judith Darr, dean of the law school, said they are thrilled to welcome the governor. She said, quote, "As a law school graduate himself, our governor understands how important this milestone is for our students and their families," end quote. The ceremony will recognize around 120 graduates from the Chase College of Law. Now let's take it to William Wilson to hear about what's going on around town. William?
Thank you, Emily. In the home stretch before summer break, take a minute to prioritize your health. Join the Student Wellness Education and the Norse Wellness Network in celebrating Digital Wellness Day. Visit the Student Wellness Education table on the second floor of the Student Union from 11 until 1 on Friday. Find digital wellness giveaways, additional information, and take the Digital Flourishing Survey to assess your digital wellness. Norse Film Society is back with their annual Norse Film Festival. Celebrate the hard work of any and all students who want to show off their projects. The festival is this Friday, May 2nd at 6 p.m. in the Griffin Hall Digitorium. Enjoy a night full of creative films, drinks, popcorn, prizes, and more. Take this opportunity to get involved one more time before the end of the year. Attendance is open to absolutely anyone. Join for the passion of filmmaking. Spend the evening under the stars in a viewing of the heavens at the Hale Planetarium. At this constellation tour focuses on identifying and observing constellations. Join the stargazers this Friday, May 2nd from 7 until 8 in the Science Center Planetarium, room 409. Learn how to navigate the night sky, locate prominent stars, and recognize seasonal changes in constellations with practical tips and engaging visuals. After the sky tour, discover the history and science of the telescope in the film Two Small Pieces of Glass. This show celebrates how telescopes have revolutionized our understanding of the universe, taking us on a journey from Galileo's discoveries to modern observatories. Find more information on nku.edu and search Hale Planetarium Calendar. That's a wrap on today's Northerner Around the World break. Back to you, Emily.
Thank you, William. Could a $5,000 bonus persuade families to have more kids? It's something President Trump has expressed interest in as birth rates have been declining the last few years. Many family advocates worry, however, that more needs to be done to make raising kids affordable. In today's Consumer Watch, Jen Sullivan looks at rising costs.
Childcare costs have risen dramatically in the last few years, and families are feeling the financial squeeze.
When you're juggling both work and family and navigating the economy and just the costs associated with families, it adds up.
Jocelyn Fry is the president of the National Partnership for Women and Families, a nonprofit that advocates for parents and children, including finding solutions to make costs more affordable.
We don't want your child care to be larger than your mortgage.
A recent study by loan facilitator LendingTree found the cost to raise a child was nearly $300,000 over 18 years. That doesn't even include college tuition. They factored in a variety of costs, including housing, food, clothes, insurance, and daycare, which saw the biggest jump in price, rising more than 50% in 2 years. As costs increase, birth rates are declining. President Donald Trump may want to change that and is considering offering new parents a $5,000 bonus to have more kids. But Fry worries that's not nearly enough.
We have to step back and say what really helps families.
She'd like to see more states offer paid family leave. So far, 13 states and the District of Columbia have passed laws that require employers to offer some type of paid leave for all new parents. For Consumer Watch, I'm Jen Sullivan.
With Mother's Day right around the corner, Americans are planning to spend big on mom. According to the National Retail Federal, a little over $34 billion is expected to be spent on Mother's Day this year. On average, consumers plan to spend more than $250 on gifts and celebrations. Flowers continue to be the most popular gift, followed by cards and special outings. Mother's Day spending totals are up from last year. This year's amount is close behind the record $35.7 billion consumers spent in 2023. And like pandas, people love to watch penguins in action. A worldwide conservation group called Penguins International had people vote for their favorite penguins around the globe. And one of those chosen penguins lives at the Pueblo Zoo in Pueblo, Colorado. Lindsay Grew has more on this story.
These are the penguins of the Pueblo Zoo. And waddling among them is one of the top 6 penguins in the entire world. Meet Ducky.
He is very playful and very attention-seeking and just kind of sassy.
Ducky recently went flipper to flipper with dozens of other penguins across the globe in this year's March of the Penguin Madness.
It's kind of like a March Animal Madness bracket, but altered for penguins.
All vying for the title, World's Most Popular Penguin. Zoos from New Zealand to Nebraska got to nominate their contenders.
And then not everybody gets chosen.
Ducky made the cut. But coming from a small zoo and relying on votes to advance, Ducky was an underdog.
We'd been in the competition before. However, unfortunately, none of our penguins made it past the first round.
For Ducky to be the first, he would need a secret weapon.
Going up against really well-known zoos or bigger zoos, the community really rallied around and voted for him. We even had a penguin from a really popular conservation center in Africa competing in the competition. We went against them one round and won, so yeah.
From 48 penguins, Pueblo voters made Ducky one of the last 6 penguins standing.
Ducky made it to the semifinals round, which was really exciting for all of us.
There, Ducky's Cinderella run finally came to an end. But the zoo couldn't be prouder of its plucky penguin and the love he got from Pueblo.
People will come in and ask about him and say, oh, we're really sorry he lost. We were really rooting for him, but he's the winner in our hearts. He's the winner in our hearts, too.
And she tells me the support from the city has translated into something even better than winning the title. An increased interest in the zoo's African penguins, which as of last year are critically endangered.
Ducky is a great ambassador for his species. It's been great to be able to talk more and have people invested.
So, has success changed Ducky?
Every once in a while he throws out a statement like, hey, remember when I was in that competition and winning? Maybe I should get some more fish today.
The penguin exhibit is inside the Eco Center building at the Pueblo Zoo. Well, that'll do it for us for this week's edition of the Northerner World Report. Check us out on social media at Northerner Media, subscribe to our newsletter, and read more stories at thenortherner.com. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.